we took out a pattern on it, and maybe people can't use it, but it's great. I love the bribe system. I want to see it in more games. Moving on to another positive thing, I enjoy the large-scale battles. This is a war game, a rebellion game where you're fighting against the Empire. And not only do you have basic combat, but you also have large-scale army war that you take part in. This is basically rock, paper, scissors, but there's a lot more to it than that, I would say. To sum it up, you have a charge attack, a bow attack, and a magic attack. And each of those are either strong or weak to another one. So magic is strong against charge attacks, but it is weak to bow attacks. And then charge is weak to magic, but strong to bow. And it kind of loops like that around. And there's a bunch of cool little extra things you can do, like persuading the army to come to your side, or making your charge attacks even more powerful. You can even predict what the enemy is going to do next. And obviously this ties in with the hiring system, where basically you bring in new characters to help you out along in the combat, and that allows you to become more powerful as you go along. And I think that's a really cool way of bringing it all together at the end, just allowing you to use all your 108 stars to just wreck shop. And like, that's nice. It's nice to play a game where you get rewarded for doing everything, and it really benefits you in that regard. Also, quality of life in this game, surprisingly good, outside of the story system obviously. But like, the fact that you can warp back to base instantly makes me more likely to start doing all the hiring. If I couldn't warp back to base and teleport to other areas I've gone to before, I wouldn't be doing any. I wouldn't be doing, well, I would do some of it, but I wouldn't do all of the hiring because of how much you're constantly jumping around all over the place. And yeah, the quality of life in the hideout is really cool. I like how the more people you hire, you get new things in the hideout, like a library, a bath. You can even change the music. You can change your window frame that you have for the text, so you can have this nice blue outline, or change the color of the background of that. You can even find a guy who will paint the logo for you and that'll appear on the wall. It's great. I love all this stuff. I want to see more of that in Suikoden 2 when I get around to that eventually. And then, yeah, kind of moving on from that, I would say that it is a better large-scale party game than Chrono Cross, because Chrono Cross's combat system was, I would describe it as colors. Every single character had some manner of powerful color, like green, blue, yellow, and that was all well and good. However, the thing is in Chrono Cross is it doesn't really have central characters in spots, which makes it kind of hard to follow through with who you really want. It does kind of have that as well, but I think this game handles that alongside the story a lot better, where you do have central main characters who do take a priority in the combat. And they are easy to get in this game too. Hiring them is nothing too crazy. Like, I think the hardest thing to do to hire someone is to get like 4 other people. Basically, there's this blacksmith fellow who you meet in one of the late game locations, and you got to bring all his pupils to him in your party. I don't mind that. I don't mind going out of my way to do that, because you can get that pretty easily because of the quality of life. While in Chrono Cross, the lack of that quality of life and the fact that like some of the characters are just not useful in combat kind of makes them less than useful, and it just kind of feels like bloating that game, while it feels like this is the game's entire focus. And then the final part, well, not the final part, we've got pros and cons too, but the story. I am very impressed by Suikoden. I enjoyed almost all of the characters we were introduced to in the world of Suiko. It's called Suiko, I think. That's what the world is. I don't know what the den means at the end, but every single character had some governing character trait, and we're going to go into spoilers here, but I like that there's like a character for everyone. Everyone who would play this game and ends up forming your party like based around them. Luckily, because the gameplay is malleable enough for each character, you can kind of choose whatever the hell you want. Like, every single character is effective in this game. You don't need to worry about that much. So I ended up using Sidonia because I liked him. He was a cheeky kind of I don't know, a sneaky bandit character. I like his design a lot, so I had him in my party for most of the game. I liked Cleo as well. I enjoyed Gamorio. I basically turned Gamorio into my healer. And as I mentioned before with the Chrono Cross thing, they spend quite a lot of time to develop the more important characters. I wouldn't say that the characters weren't important, like some of the less important characters were, but they spent the time needed to really flesh out some of them, like Gamorreo's relationship with our main character, or the whole thing with Matthew, who I really liked at the end. I liked how they handled him. And that kind of leads me on to my spoiler point of, I think that this game had really effective character deaths. Like, the two that come to my mind are Gamorreo's and Matthew's at the end. There's also Pawn's, but the thing is that I learned after finishing the game is that you can save Pawn, and thus you can also save Gamorreo. I don't like that. I kind of like the idea of there being like actual consequences for the main character to this, like Lennar, whatever her name is, the fortune teller at the beginning, the soothsayer says at the beginning that you are going to lose stuff and it's going to be bad, but this is what you have to do to have freedom. Losing Gamorreo felt like a part of that. It felt like taking the stabilizers off, and while it hurt me at the time losing him as a character, I think it was really well done. And I generally felt shocked afterwards. I was like, well, this is an old RPG. And I was like, this felt bad. I was like, what the fuck? That was wonderful. I enjoyed that. And then Matthew's at the end as well. Like, him, like, surviving just long enough to see the end of the war and finally passing away sweetly at the end. I was like, oh, I like this character a lot. But the only issue I have is a couple of the character deaths kind of come out of nowhere. Particularly Ted's. I think if Ted was given more scenes between us leaving Greg Minister and us finally meeting him back in Seek Valley, it would have made his death more impactful, but all I was thinking at the time was, oh hey Ted, how's it going? Oh, you're dead now, okay, bye. They just brought him back for him to get sacrificed to the Soul Eater, and then he just dies. I kind of wish they did a little bit more. Yes, we have the whole flashback thing of his past, but he doesn't really interact with our main character at all. I guess there's an implication that he recognizes us from the past, and that's why he stayed with us. But I think I needed a little bit more because it kind of came out of nowhere and didn't leave as much as an impact on me as Gamorreo's death did. Because, they set it up. There's a whole scene beforehand where Victor's like, you can't rely on Gamorreo forever, but he's not going to be around forever. And then there's a scene where you can choose to, we were like, no, Gamorreo, I need to go do this on my own. I need to go be a strong rebellion leader. And then at the end, they just bring him back anyway. Part of the good ending. I don't like that. I like when character deaths feel final, like it hit pretty well. But I'm also glad for people who was really broken about Gamorreo's death. I was. It just feels like suddenly the soothsayer has this sudden resurrection power out of God knows nowhere. She just brings it out of nothing. I don't know where it comes from, but she just has it now, I guess. Moving on from that, as I was talking before, some of the characters having some good development. I like the fact that both sides were nuanced in this story. We didn't just have evil Empire. You start the game with the Empire. You are the son of one of the generals, Tia McDowell, and you kind of find out the Empire isn't great as the game goes on, but the people who join you, yes, some of them have this plot device rune on their hands that stop them make them evil, basically. But Sonia and Tio's friend, I think even Tio himself, they were not being controlled. They were loyal to their empire to the last, and it led to them basically having this situation where we have to fight them. We have to fight our own dad. We have to fight our dad's friends. And even the Emperor himself. There's a scene, which I really like, where we need to save some dragons, and one of the kids goes out to basically go fight and go find an ingredient to heal the dragon. The thing is, though, the item required is in the king's royal garden. So he sneaks in there, and then is caught by the king himself. And you think, oh no, is he about to kill the kid because he's evil? No, he lets him go. He just lets him leave and hates the fact that all this fighting has to occur. and like he's just tired at the end of the day, and the Empire's not working out the way he thought it was. Like, it's great character writing, especially for a game this old. I was really impressed. I heard that Suikoden 2 was the game that had the story chops. Like, it's been regarded apparently by a lot as the best PS1 story in an RPG. But I think that this game was pretty damn good too. Like, better than some Final Fantasies, I think. Like, I think Final Fantasy IX is the superior game in terms of some story stuff, but this game hit the landing. I don't think 9 hit it as hard as this one did, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And yeah, the overarching plot, like the stuff that happens in between, it's classic little fantasy beats of elves versus dwarfs, dragon fortress, fighting a literal vampire, and the thin thread of a rebellion ties it all together. I forgot about Odessa's death. Odessa's death is also really good, really well handled. Like, surprisingly shocking, because I didn't think they were going to kill her. Same with Gamorio, because Gamorio appears in the stars menu, and it's like, okay, he's not going to die now because he's in there. It would be weird for him to be removed. Nope, he grays out in the menu after that. You feel his absence from the party. It's fantastic. So yeah, I think there's enough icing from the story to make the gameplay, like the basic gameplay and dungeons, a little bit better. Helps that the writing is pretty good and the localization team did a good job here. But yeah, that's it in terms of story. And moving on to pros and cons. So we're going to do an overall summary now, so I'll go for the cons first, just so we can end on a lighter note. So yeah, my main issues of it were the story system, the forced party sections, unity attacks being difficult to pass. I don't actually mention that in the gameplay, but unity attacks, I didn't use any across the entire game, because it's all trial and error. You don't know what characters can interact with each other. Like, you have to basically look at a guide to find out who can interact with who. So I didn't really use it. I kind of wish it was more intuitive, but yeah. And then combat isn't that exciting, or dungeon exploring. And then moving on to pros, I really like the formation system, actually, in the combat. I like the fact that you had to put certain characters in the front or in the back. Instead of it being back row, front row, like in Final Fantasy, you can only have 3 at the front and 3 at the back. Yeah, I think that's pretty fun. The bribe system is good, and I like the fact the encounter rates are not terrible in this game. Effective story moments like Gamorio's death and the whole rebellion fight against these really nuanced characters, and of course, finally the large-scale battles themselves. I enjoyed my time with this. I was thinking of doing a quick harvest this weekend, but I just felt like it was a game that was better suited to just running through it and taking a lot of notes. I made basically a whole note sheet that went through every single star and what their star represented. I think that is a functionally really good RPG, and I had an absolute blast playing it. I don't usually play RPGs on my own. Like, I usually have them recorded or have someone else talking with me during it, but this was a first, and I had a good time of it. So yeah, I'll probably put Suikoden pretty high up there in the ranking. I usually wait about a month before putting an actual score on a game just to get recency bias out the way. So we'll see where it sits after that. But I had a good time with it. It was a good RPG, and I think it was pretty good overall. But that's it. That's it for the quick harvest today. Hope you all enjoyed this new format, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.